I drink because I like the effects produced by alcohol. It gives me a sense of relief. And so no matter what I'm experiencing in my life, that is my answer, is to pick up a drink and to get relief. So I don't like feeling good or great. I like feeling oblivion.
Hello, and welcome to Find Your Fuel, the podcast where we bring you authentic stories from women just like you who've overcome different physical, mental, and emotional struggles and found the fuel to live their best lives. Today, I'm honored to introduce a fierce and inspiring, sober ultra runner, Brittany Poor. Brittany's story is one of transformation where she took a life or death struggle with addiction and channeled that into a life full of self-awareness, reflection, and growth. She is a two-time 100-mile finisher who went from a state where she could barely eat or even walk in the first 4 days of her sobriety to conquering the mental and physical challenges of ultra running. We're going to dive into her philosophy and key to healing, which is learning how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you're fighting a hard battle, whether with addiction, mental health, or just a deep physical struggle, this conversation is your fuel for today. Join me in hearing Brittany's story.
I'm from Oceanside, California, and I started running when I was 25. I've always been athletic my whole life, and I always share this because I think it's funny. I was a world qualified Irish dancing champion when I was younger. So like the
Ooh,
river dance.
yeah,
Yeah, if you've ever seen it, it's not quite
sure
as river
have.
dance. It's like Irish dancing meets like competitive cheer or something. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like something you just have to see with your own eyes. But I started that when I was 9 and just was really driven. I don't know, obsessive might be a better word for it, just even as like a young girl. And so worked really hard, and like my dad built a studio in the garage, and my mom and I traveled all over the world, really. And so when you're 18 in that space, you're old and you can't compete anymore. And so I knew there was like this impending doom when I was 16. Like because it was the love of my life. It still is to this day. I just have such a spot in it for my heart. But by the time I was 16, I knew like this was going to be coming to an end. And so actually slipped into like a little bit of a depression because I'm like, what do I do with my life?
That
Like,
was your
who am
whole
I?
identity up until
Y-
that point.
Yeah, like, and I'm sure it's like I've talked to other women about this, like ballerinas, like if you're in soccer from the time you're like
D1.
4,
Mhm.
yes, yes, yeah, exactly. And so I didn't know anything else. I literally, like it was always that. And we're talking like 12-hour practices on Sunday alone. You know what I mean? So it was just I was knee deep into
Day and
it
night and
fully.
weekend your life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my life, my whole life. And so 18, like graduated high school, was going into college, all that jazz, and didn't really know what to do. At this time I was like partying a lot, like drinking a lot, and that kind of thing. And I've always had this mentality of like work hard, play hard, but I wasn't working hard. In
Still playing
retrospect, it was
real
like,
hard.
yeah, yeah, I'm still playing real hard. And so I had a friend of mine, she's still a friend of mine to this day. And her name is Marla. And I met her when I was 25. So like flash forward some years. And at this time I was actually attempting to get sober. I was not successful. But I was attempting to the best of my ability. And she was a runner. And it was so vain, like the way that I had gotten into it, because she had a great body and she was like really pretty. And I'm like, I want to be those things too. And so I'm like, I'm going to start running. And she's like, you should do a 5K. A, I didn't know what that was. And then B, I was like, when I found out, I was like, 3 miles, 3.1 miles. It's like, I could never do that. And I started walking around this park. It's Golden Hills Park. It's on A and 25th in San Diego. And so I would run 30 seconds, walk 1 minute, run 30 seconds, walk 1 minute. So I was walking more than I was running. And I remember when I could run 8 minutes in a row, I thought I was the shit. I thought I had arrived. And I just proceeded to do that for a while and then entered into my first 5K, which was they don't even have it anymore. It was like Eastvale 5K or something. I don't know what it was. But there was a lot of people there and I wore a cotton like wife beater shirt, like a cotton tank top, hand-me-down running shoes, which will come into play later. Hand-me-down running shoes. Like I didn't own a pair of running shoes. And yeah, one of my friends came with me to like watch me do like this, like what is she up to now? And I think I got like third overall female, which was pretty good because there was a bunch of people there. And instantly I was hooked. And I was like, this is it. And so I had another one of my friends, again, and a friend still that I have to this day. And she goes, if you could do a 5K, you could do a half marathon. And I thought, a half marathon is a 5K with a 10-mile warm up. There is no way. There's no way I could do that. And then proceeded to do the Triple Crown here, which is Carlsbad, La Jolla, and then America's Finest City. They're like 3 months apart. It's all half marathons. And that's kind of like what got me started into running.
And were you
And
sober at this point?
I was sober during this point. Now, as like story progresses, I would relapse. So my story deals a lot with like chronic relapse because I was 25 at this point. This was um I'm 37 now, and I've been sober since March 26, 2023. So I just celebrated 2.5 years. I'll have 3 years this March. And so it was a road for me. And when I would be sober, I would run. And then obviously when I was not sober, it was like that thing would take a back seat, as with a lot of things in my life,
Mm-hmm.
but running was always like sprinkled into it. It wasn't until I got sober this time, which I made a lot of changes, right? One of them being putting sobriety first, right? So that was one big change that I made, whereas like sobriety became paramount to everything, including running,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but that's when I started diving into like the ultras. So
Mm-hmm.
before that, though, I did a lot of like road half marathons were my jam. Still to this day, I love a good half Mary. It's a great distance. Everything's still fun.
Yeah. You're not in the pain cave for as long.
Not in the pain cave. We're enjoying the views, honey. We're
Yeah.
enjoying the views.
And so for you, what was the crux of your addiction at that point when you were in your 20s? Was it you were partying very hard and then you couldn't get out of it? Or,
Mhm.
what was that kind of root cause now looking back on that addiction?
Yeah, and that's such a good question. Is like because in like the way I got sober, which I will preface it by this. I think a lot of and it's no knock, and I don't mean it in a I think people get sober. What I'm trying to say is I think people get sober for a variety of different reasons, and they're all my jam. I love them all. I
You're here
love
for
to
them
hear all the
all.
stories. I'm here for them all. And a lot of like the things that I hear now is like I got sober because of lifestyle choices. I got sober because my body feels better, and I got sober, for I wanted to set a better example for my kids. And all of that is like valid, awesome, and I'm here for it. Um my story is like a little bit different. It's not different for millions of people in the world. It's very common. But my story is a little bit different in the sense that I don't hear it very often, where it's like this kind of became like a life and death issue for me, where it started off like, first of all, I drank alcoholically from the first moment I picked up a drink, and it progressively got worse. And I think in the beginning it was like, yeah, this partying kind of like atmosphere and the work hard, play hard and that type of a thing. And then it became a way of like how I celebrate life, how I grieve life. I drink because I like the effects produced. I don't think that there was something that necessarily happened or any sort of like we hear
Masking
these like
pain.
yeah, like we hear these pop psychology terms thrown around, like my traumas and triggers, and it's like I'll drink whether on a Tuesday. I don't really need a reason. I don't need a reason. I will make one up. So that's just my experience, and it
Mhm.
can be totally different for everybody else. And but I did have to get down to causes and conditions. It's like I drink because I like the effects produced by alcohol. It gives me a sense of relief. And so no matter what I'm experiencing in my life, that is my answer is to pick up a drink and to get relief. So I don't like feeling good or great. I like feeling oblivion.
Mhm.
And so that and then I became, as time went on, um, when I started drinking and stayed drinking, I became physically dependent on it to the
Mhm.
point where I needed help to like medical help to get off of it. And so when that started happening, that was like, okay, like I knew it was bad at that point. Like, because I had never reached that part. I could always kind of like put it down and, you know, manage well, figure it out and all that kind of stuff. But when that started happening, like I knew that the problem was getting a lot more severe. And by that time I was in my mid 30s.
And what did
So
that look like? What did the severity that was scaring you look like?
I needed like in order to put the bottle down, I needed to be in a detox.
Mm,
Like I
mhm.
needed I needed Librium,
Yeah.
which is a medication that they give you for getting off alcohol because you can die from it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And I don't know if a lot of people know that, is that you can die from it. So we were at that point. We were at that point. And all the times before, I tried a variety of different ways to get sober, would stay sober for a while. And then my life would start getting really good. And then I would start to believe that I knew how to run the show
Mm,
myself,
mhm.
which is still to this day like a dangerous game to play, the game that Brittany thinks that Brittany knows best.
Mhm.
And so today I practice a spiritual program of action in order to stay sober one day at a time. So, but in the beginning it was really rough. I had to go to a detox facility. And the cool thing about that, because there's not too many cool things about it, but I do believe in silver linings, honey. I do. And so the first 4 days I was in that detox facility, like I couldn't walk or eat for the first four
Mm,
days. I remember that because your body is just so weak
mhm.
from just dumping a bunch of poison into it. And that's one thing that I think about now when I run ultras, because it's like, here I am running 100 miles, and I think, oh my God, I remember not being able to like walk the first 4 days of that. And it's like, talk about gratitude and
Mm,
just, I'll get weepy during the ultra. I'm not much of a crier, but I will get, teary-eyed when I think about that. And so a lot of what my life looks like, and I don't talk about this very often, but a lot of it is helping other women get sober. That's a big thing, and I am available for that, and I make myself available for that, because I was taught like the only way to keep what you have is to give it away, you know what I
I
mean? And
love that.
so somebody helped me get sober, and the cool thing too about that woman is that she was, you know, I would hear a lot of oh, you're trading one addiction for another,
With
because
ultra
I was
running?
yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, and rightfully so, because it's kind of extreme, just a little. And so people were like real worried about me. And she was the one person who was like, I really think that there's something that this does something for you. I think, and she would see me day in and day out. Like she knew my training. She knew that I was like eating properly. We had to tweak that a little bit, but there was no cause for alarm in anything that I was doing, and she knew how much joy it brought me, and she was like, "Yeah, I think that you should incorporate this into the puzzle of your sobriety. It's not the whole puzzle, it's just a piece, but I think it's a pretty big good piece of the puzzle." And so I'm really grateful for her because she was the one that kind of like cultivated it.
Yeah, and to keep that progress of this is something I love. I've done a 50K. I haven't done the 100 miler like you have, which is impressive. But I do know when you're doing distances like that, it brings out your true character. At
It
mile,
does.
whatever it is, when you're in so much pain and it's more of a mental battle than just a physical one, there are so many things that you learn about yourself, or being out on the trail running for so long when you have time to think and sit with yourself and reflect and process. I think there's so many beautiful things that come with ultra running that it is, I don't want to say shocking, but it is a little crazy when you hear some people say, "Oh, well you're just swapping one addiction for the other." And it's like, yes, but it's healthier. It helps me grow
Yeah.
and process, and I am a better person with that as opposed to the other one. So
Yeah,
we're
and
leveling up here.
this one doesn't land me in the hospital. So
Yeah.
like that's cool, right? But I think that women, I'm like such a girl's girl. And so anytime I talk to women, it's like I don't have any children, but one could imagine. It's like women are capable of bringing life into this world. Like I would think, I've thought about this before, where I'm like, childbirth, I would imagine, would just be like so much harder than running 100 miles.
It's
I
pretty
I
bad.
don't, yeah, I
And
have
then
like
two natural
no
births without drugs. It is pretty bad.
queen. Yes. And so it's like I'm like, oh, if you could do that, you can run 100 miles. And I think that ultras are the great truth teller. I always say that because I believe it. And it's the cool thing that's happened is some of the earlier ultras that I was doing, like 50Ks and stuff like that, I would get lost on course and like have to backtrack or something. I'd be so mad.
That's a
And
mental
then,
setback. So many people drop out of
yes,
races because of that.
yes. And then so I would just get like ugly and nasty in my own head. And I go, what? What is that? Because this is supposed to be a gratitude, an act of devotion, and like this act of gratitude. But here I am, pissed off, like having this internal dialogue of like, I mean, like what was going on through my head was like not good, nice, or anything like that. And I'm getting so upset over being, like, missing a mark or getting off course or whatever. But it caused me to like look at that, like, I took a look and it's like, whatever is happening right now is a gross vibe that I don't like about
Mm.
myself. And so then as like time progressed, it was like, it's really about I've find, and this is like an ongoing journey for me, obviously, but I think ultras are a lot about managing. So it's like whatever that looks like, managing pain, managing like my expectations, managing my attitude is a big one. And like this last ultra that I did, these climbs were like sandbox climbs. They were just like, and it was at the end.
Yep, of
Okay.
course.
It's like mile 47. Every time I step, I'm just sinking into sand.
Oh, that's the worst.
And I just started like laughing. Like I was just like, "What? This is so who made this course? I want to talk to them." And there's like a lighthearted, jovial aspect to it now, and it's like, "Wow, I've come a long way from somebody like just moaning and griping about something that I did. Like I got off course, like that's my fault. You know what I mean? To being on course, going through like a really rough section at mile 47 and being like, it is what it is. And like the only way, like the finish line is not going to come to you. Like you have to go to it. There's like
So
only one way
true.
to get there.
And I love your self-awareness around that and being able to look inside of yourself at the answers and what that parallels in life as well. That's one of the reasons I love anything athletic or just getting yourself out there and challenging yourself, because you're going to learn something about yourself or force yourself to confront something about yourself that is a hard
Uh-huh.
truth and will help in your everyday life. Or coaching, if you do have kids, coaching your kids or being a better friend, whatever it is. So I love that for so many
Absolutely.
reasons. And then circling back to
Absolutely.
your treatment, that was that facility that you went into and were in the bed for 4 days. Did you come out of there better and then progressed from there? What did that rest of that process of healing look like for you?
Yeah, so I went into that facility for 10 days. I ended up volunteering there for like 2 years, 2.5 years, like afterwards.
Uh-huh.
And so I would go there on like a weekly basis and give back to the place that helped me. I follow a 12-step program, which isn't it's not everyone's flavor. It works for me. It was like the only thing that works for me. Um because I like if my thinking could have if Brittany's best thinking could have gotten Brittany sober, I would have gotten sober like 10 years ago. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yep.
So, I needed clear-cut direction. I needed, um, like a program that shows me like precisely, um, how somebody is like an alcoholic like me stays sober. And it's
Mhm.
worked for millions of people, but I think I'm terminally unique. And I think it's like, oh, I don't have to do anything that these other people do. I can find a different way. And so what I in the past what I've noticed with me trying to get sober all these times before is I cherry pick like what
Mm.
I was willing to do to stay sober.
Mhm.
And I would find loopholes and people would suggest things for me and I'd be like, "Nah, thanks for the information, but I got it." And then I would drink again and like be baffled at like how that happened. And so I think that this time um and I don't know, I think this time that I was 100% willing to go to any lengths to put sobriety at the forefront of my life. Not second, not third, like, it is the most important thing, to this day, and at first, what that looks like is, like, okay, like I might have these hard life situations that crop up and I just want to feel better about the situation. And so um a big just learning how to get out of myself. Like I'm so selfish and self-centered. And I wouldn't think that about myself. I'm very giving and kind and everything like that. But when I look at my thoughts, all it is I want, I think, I feel, I want, I think, I feel, I want, I think, I feel. It's this constant loop of self 24/7 and it's just nauseating. And so what I would do is I would get out of self and like try and figure out ways of how I could be of service to other people, which saved the day for me many, many times. But and it's changed and evolved like over time. Like in my sobriety today, I'm a big believer in I have to surround myself with good people today. Like it's like the quality of like the people in my life and the friends that I have and just the people that I surround myself with. I have a lot of discernment, you know what I mean? I'm kind to everybody. People who are like in my inner circle, they have certain qualities, morals, and values about them, you know? And so I have to be, and that all go, even like my friend circle, what you would think that that really doesn't have anything to do with sobriety. And for me, it does. That has
Mhm.
everything goes back to that.
Yeah.
Everything goes back to sobriety for me personally.
Yeah, and I can see that with if you surround yourself with a ton of people who don't put themselves at the center of everything, are very giving, look at the world as how can I
Mhm.
give instead of receive.
Mhm.
There is a different
Mhm.
vibe of hanging out with 10 people
Mhm.
like that than 10 people where
Mhm.
they're the center of the uniform.
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah, and it's like this attitude of like like, how can I leave something better than I found it or not come into a situation with like palms up? Like, what are you going to give me? Like that kind of attitude had to be abandoned. And like, what about the greater good? That's hard too, because let me tell you something. This is what I've found in like my personal experiences. Like, that doesn't always feel good for me. Like,
Mm.
what's gonna be great for the greater
Yes.
good doesn't always feel good for Brittany.
Oh,
And
so
it's like,
true.
as an alcoholic, I love to feel good.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know what I mean? It's difficult at times. It doesn't always feel like rainbows and butterflies are falling out of the sky. It's been the hardest thing that I've ever done, but it's been the most rewarding. So it's not like I'm like white knuckling it, like trying not to drink today. But it's like what my sobriety looks like. I don't really get my way a lot of the time. I don't, but it's like the rewards from like putting myself on like, just setting myself aside and like seeing how I can help the most number of people. Like the rewards that come from that have been really fulfilling.
I love that. It reminds me of the quote, "In giving, you will receive." And once you practice that and do that, you will get hooked. I've
Hmm.
started to do that as you get older and start thinking about things a little
Yeah.
bit more
Yeah.
mature.
Yeah.
Just wanna give back. That was part of starting this podcast, was thinking about how could I give back and have a platform to share more women's stories that are amazing stories like
Yes.
yours, and be able to contribute and not just be focused on myself and trying to gain as much money as possible and things as
Right.
possible. How do we look outward?
Right. And it's not easy. Like even like something like this podcast where it's like, okay, I have to give like my time and like my effort and a certain amount of energy. And I would imagine like some sort of like amount, a dollar amount. And I will like for me personally, like a lot of times I expect to see a certain result from like the work that I put in, work hard, play hard.
Mm,
So I expect like if I'm putting X amount of work in, then I want a certain result that comes from that. And it's like I have found out in sobriety, like I am responsible for the work that I put in, and I have to leave the results to the big man upstairs or God or a higher power, whatever you choose to believe that spins these planets around, creative intelligence, love, whatever that looks like for you. But like I do not get to call the shots in the results like category.
yeah.
And that can be a crushing blow sometimes, like for someone like me, or like I think we were talking about this earlier, but even like how people I'm not the only person with like an addiction, right? Like my addictions to alcohol. A bunch of people have addiction to like food, internet, Amazon shopping, like add to cart, add to cart, add to cart. But like, what about the addiction of being right all the time? Or
Mm,
what about the addiction of trying to force things to conform to my will? Or what
mhm.
about the addiction of trying to manipulate certain situations and trying to control people or like whatever? So it's like my sobriety has really forced me to kind of look at that, look at those type of like mini addictions within my addiction. And it sounds nitpicky and, like, oh gosh, just take a break already. You know what I mean? But I feel like when I just kind of shine a light to certain things, my life gets a lot better. My relationships get a lot better, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's amazing. It reminds me also of the let them theory. The core of it is to let go. Do not control everything. You can only control what you can control, and start viewing the world that way. And different things will happen when you just change that mindset. Your life will get better when you know yourself and can change that mindset.
Yeah. And a lot of time is like my attitude, where it's like, I'll have a commitment of life of some sort, you know what I mean? And it's like, one thing that I had to pay attention to is like, I'll suit up and show up. So, like, if I have a commitment to be somewhere, I'll be there. You know what I mean? Except for this podcast that I was late to. No. But,
Time zone,
but
mix
like
up.
time zones. Oh, but, but it's like, okay, that's great and dandy. But like, how do you show up? Like, what's your attitude? Like, look like? Like, do you show up and like complain and give everyone a laundry list of like how busy you are and all the things that you had to put to the side in order to like make room for this thing. It's like, ew, go home. Like, no, like with an attitude like that, like who wants you around? I don't, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like how I show up, like how I show up, like what kind of attitude do I show up with, you know?
How do you
So
make that
that,
mental reframe?
yeah, practice.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of times where I didn't do it the best. And you know what, too, is like having a good pair of eyes on your situation. Like the friends that I have today in my life, they'd
Mm.
rather, and this message isn't for everybody. I'll just say it right now. I'm not everyone's flavor, but like the friends that I have in my life today would rather hurt me with the truth than try to comfort me with a lie. They care about the quality of my life. And so sometimes they say it's very kind what they say to me. It's the most loving things that have been said to me don't sound good on the eardrum. You know what I mean? Where it's like uh hey, like I think that you're being selfish in this situation, or hey, you're kind of acting like a martyr, or there's that victim card again, like, you know, and it's
Mm.
like, well, how dare you say that about me, like, don't you know who I think I am, you know? And so but it's like people pointing out like,
With love,
hey,
yeah.
with love, and like tough love is love too. And I needed a lot of that. I needed someone to tell me the truth about myself, where it's like, hey, you show up to these things and you show up on time, but you do it with a crap attitude, and it makes people, you know, like, or it may make people walk on eggshells or be uneasy, or you're not as approachable, or like, you know, whatever have you. I'm kind of like being like hypothetical and like kind of making up stuff, but you know, in this, you know, in a general way. And it's like, is that the type of woman that I want to be today? Like, not really. And so it's been in the practice of it, I think.
Which is a very different reframe as well when receiving that information, because that could easily lead to just a fight with a friend. But
Mhm.
you take it with an open heart, knowing that is a trusted friend. They're coming from a
Mhm.
place of love and being able to be open to hearing that. Because I think a
Mhm.
lot of people can't do that either.
I know. I know. I think about that too because it's like, dang, that's the stuff that's like saved my ass, like, time and time again, you know what I mean? And it's been I've seen, like, the benefits of that in, like, the relationships with my family and my friends and, you know, just I in work, like, in business or, you know, and even in running, like, just, like, in the spirit, you know, it's like, I could go out there, I guess, and, like, go to these races, like, just with a shit attitude, like, "Oh, I'm here to win," or like, whatever, you know, we see that from time to time. And it's just like, my big thing is like, how can I encourage women? How can I plant a seed? That's what I call it. I love planting seeds. Like, so if I find out that you've done a half marathon, I am going to talk to you about a full.
Ooh, love it.
Like, that is
Leveling up.
just I am like all about that. Or if you need anything, or if you're low on electrolytes or like whatever, I like bring extra stuff with me, or have a friend like, oh, you need a place to stay, like come, you can come and crash at my hotel, or like what, you know, whatever, within reason, depending on how I know people and stuff. I'll just like just let anybody in. But you know, it's like I try, you know, I really try to bring like that spirit into everything that I do.
Which is what I love about the ultra running community as well. I think it's
Hmm.
pretty hard pressed to find someone who's a complete grump out there. I mean, usually if you are in a pain cave later on in the race, you know, you might be in your own tunnel vision trying to work through some things.
Yeah.
But so many people are friendly out there to beat themselves in their time. You know, this isn't like a
Hmm.
marathon or half marathon where everyone's comparing their pace and times. It feels like everyone's out there to really just do their best and have fun
Hmm.
on the trails and meet some cool people. And one thing you had said earlier, which I love, was ultra running gives you the space to get comfortable with the uncomfortable, which I think is
Hmm.
so true because you're sitting with discomfort for a very long time. And it
Mhm.
is just as much this mental battle as physical battle. And when you practice being uncomfortable, it can be so helpful in all different areas of your life. So I know that kind of meant a lot to you as well, and curious what your thoughts on that are.
Absolutely. And I just think too, it's like again, it goes back to like early sobriety, I can totally relate with that idea is like for the first 9 months of my sobriety, I had to get really comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm,
And so when like doing ultras, I kind of make that parallel, or just like you don't even have to have like an addiction, but it's like I think that there's like examples in my own life where I've had to be really get really comfortable being uncomfortable. And so, like, when I'm running an ultra, it's like, this is actually not the hardest thing I've ever done.
yes.
Like, it's not. Like, some of the situations that I brought myself into, like, while actively drinking, or some of the things that I put myself through, or that, like, even in early sobriety, it doesn't have to be like even in drinking, but like I can like look I do that. Like so I'll be in a race and it's like running 100 miles is like this is not hell. That's another thing I get too. Like from like my non-running friends, they'll hear what I do and they'll be like, "Oh my God, that sounds like hell." And it's like, "No, I know what hell is like." And like this is nothing like
That's
that. I
not
think
it.
that no, this is not it. Yeah, this is not it. And it doesn't have to be addiction. I think like for some people, like going through a divorce is like there's some messy divorces out there. There's death, there's grief, there's loss, there's like, there's a plethora of things that people go
Yes.
through. So it's not just tied to one thing. And then two, I think women are really good at being like dealing with discomfort for longer. And that's the cool thing about ultras too, because like the gap between the men and the women gets smaller as
Yep.
those distances get longer.
Yep.
And I just think as women, I'm a preach it, honey, but I just think as women, like we can tap into that and kind of stay with that a lot longer. Plus, the cool thing with ultras is like no one's ever asked me what my pace was
Yeah.
during one of those things. That question doesn't exist.
Yep.
Amen. And two, there's like pizza. And even though I'm sober, when I see an aid station with some fireball shots, that is like my vibe. It's like I can't partake, but I appreciate the vibe. And that is the vibe for like that I want to have for you guys.
Uh-huh.
And I love it. I love it. I had the client of mine, she just ran a 50 miler for the first time, like this past weekend, like 2 days ago. And she texts me and she goes, "Do they serve wine?" She goes, "I was unaware that she doesn't come really from an ultra background. She's like normally like super fast 5K stuff." And so she just has never seen an aid station with like wine. I'm like, wine's a little unusual. I've seen it before, but it's normally like Fireball. She's like, "Can I ask you why?" And I'm like, "Party pays, hun."
Plus,
She's like, "Okay."
if you're the crew at an aid station, you wanna hang out and party a little bit. You're there for a
Yeah.
long time doing
n-
hard
n-
work.
n- Crewing is harder than running.
Oh,
I will
done
say
both,
that.
crewing is hard.
Crewing is harder than running. The last time I crewed, I was up for like 38 hours. I was
Yep.
literally gonna go insane. I had very little food too. It was like not a
You're
good
trying
mix.
to drive the
But
back roads
you're
where you
trying
don't have GPS or cell service, you don't know where you're
up
going,
a
and you're
mountain,
off-roading on a road that's not a road.
queen.
All
Yes,
the things.
up a mountain, and I'm just like this, like trying to
Don't
blink,
fall
like trying to
asleep, don't
see.
crash the
Not
car.
in my car, not in my
My
car.
runner
Like
needs
I'm not
me.
even not even in my car. And then it's like I would see my runner, he would just leave. Okay. There's like the last aid station that I saw, it was like he had like a 50K before I would see him again. I was like, gotta get there. Like just like get there. It's like get there for he's gonna show up in like 6 hours. He's fast. So it's like he's gonna show up there in like 6 hours. Like you have plenty of time.
Yeah.
Like, why don't you get off the mountain, get something you can't do that. Gotta go.
Can't miss them. Yeah.
Can't miss because I don't want to be I would my God, I would die if I missed him.
Yeah.
Like to be that person. Crewing so much harder. But yeah, if I was you or something like, I'd want a mimosa in the morning, pizza, a breakfast burrito, maybe, I don't know, a foot soak. But at those aid stations, they have all of that. So that, I mean, a hook, line, and sinker. That's what sold me on ultras. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, there's some fun ones. My husband's done the Leadville 100 a few times, and they always have the epic aid stations. The thing with that one is it's pretty popular, and if you find the 100s that aren't as popular, I think it's actually easier to crew because you don't have a million people. You can park
Yeah.
near where the aid station is, where that's not always the case, or sometimes you can't even park at an aid station and be there. You'll have to bus in. So sometimes the smaller ones I think can be where it's at.
Now, did you crewed him for Leadville?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Crewed and
Yeah,
then
and
paced one year. And I was like, okay, I could get into
oh
pacing.
gosh. The crew, yeah, with all the people there and stuff like that. This one that I had, it wasn't small, but it wasn't Leadville big, but
Yeah.
it was not a teeny race. It was like a good race. And I'm a savage. Like I am parking here. I'm like reversing and I don't care if it, like, that's not the best message to be spreading here, but I'm just like, and then I'm one of those people too that like I'll pace like because I can't just sit and do
Yeah.
nothing. So I'm just like pacing like back and forth. I don't know if I'm the best crew. I get
You're
too
good.
into
It sounds like you should stick to the being the runner and other people can pace you.
it. Yeah. People, please come and join me and yeah, bring me down to here because yeah, with crew, I'm like, did he like I just worry too much, that's my thing. 'Cause, and I just blame that on being a woman or my mother's daughter or something. Because I just
There's
worry
a
too
lot
much.
of
I'm like,
logistics you're juggling.
there is.
Yeah.
It's like, what's his goal? Is he on goal? Is he eating? Is he drinking? He's saying yes, but is he really? Like
Yeah.
it's just yeah. I think I'm okay at crew, but I'm not like, wanna hear a joke? Like,
Some runners don't
I
want to hear that either. Some runners are not into joking and being jovial. They want to be positive, but not too much.
that's me.
Yeah.
That's me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Brittany, is there anything else that you wish you could tell some other women about your lessons learned or any stories from your past before we wrap it up too?
I will say this, if you are thinking about signing up for a race or doing this distance, or maybe I can do a triathlon, or like this is your sign to just do it. I'm a big fan of like clicking register and figuring it out later. And I think too is also like we kind of touched on it before, like with the getting a good group of people around you, but
Mhm.
getting involved in a community, whether and sometimes that takes time. I wish that more people would talk about that because it's like sometimes that means joining a run club. Sometimes that run club doesn't always work out for like whatever one reason or another. Maybe it's just like a vibe thing or, I don't know. But like it's in the act of seeking. Like it's the constant trying. And to this day, it's like that's always evolving for me. Or it's like
Mhm.
the ways that I grow my community today are different than they were years ago.
Mhm.
So I think that for women, it's like always click register. And it's like get a good community, around you. And it's going to take some effort. It's going to take some work. And I know that firsthand. Right here on the screen, I'm very animated and all that stuff. But if you catch me at a run club, I'm like silent in the corner, like not talking to anybody. So
Uh-huh.
I get it, but and it takes, a while to like come around to those things. But I think like if I had any advice, to women in the sport or looking into getting into the sport or looking to bring it to the next level or wondering if their body can do that, or that would be like my pearls of wisdom.
I love that. And I love a good walk run to this day. Start with walk runs just like you did, then you slowly increase the amount of time that you jog. You do not need to be sprinting, you do not need to be
Do
going
not
for a
sprint a
specific
mile.
pace.
Do not sprint a mile when you have
Or try
never
it.
ran in your
It will
don't
hurt.
do that. Don't yeah, or just blow up with shin splints. Yeah, don't
Yeah,
do
true.
that. No need. No need to do that.
Yes, ease into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Brittany, thank you so much for joining. It was so awesome to have you on. Where can people find you?
The best place to find me is on Instagram, and it's Oside Running Coach. And you can always drop me a line, and I'm very good about responding. I work at a running shoe store in Carlsbad called Carlsbad Running Center. And the link is on my personal Instagram account as well. And so you can hit me up multiple places if you feel so inclined.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Find Your Fuel. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how this story resonated with you and anything else you'd like to hear more of in the future. And if you want to support us, please write a review. It's super helpful in getting new people to discover the show and help other women find the fuel to live their best lives.